Great.
We'll be going for
Hi. Um,
oh, so I say a little thing. I say a
oh,
little a little cringy intro, and then we get started. Okay, all right.
great. I'm so excited.
Hey buddies, hey everyone, hey buddies. This is the One Story Building podcast, the podcast about storytellers and the stories that they tell when they tell their stories to us. Today's guest is Mikaela Innes from Melbourne, Australia. Mikaela, would you like to tell all the nice people at home a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi. As Cody said, my name is Mikaela Innes. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm currently based in Naarm or Melbourne. I relocated to Melbourne in 2019 to study music theatre, and I'm currently in my third year, I think. It's 2020 has added like 20 years to my life.
Oh, 2020 and 21 just feel like the same year, just like glued together.
Just extended? Yeah, absolutely.
And it's already July. I still feel like we're in like March of 2020. Well, you know, the older you get, the faster time seems to go, because when you're two, a year is half your life. Now we're getting to like, well, it's
I've
the
heard that
20th of
before.
my
I
life.
don't know if like somebody So I don't know if somebody like told me or I read that little anecdote somewhere, but I find that so fascinating that the older you get, like less time you have and the faster time goes.
Yeah, and the more past you have, so you have more to reminisce and pine over. So the reason why I wanted to talk to you about things is because you have done and recorded a little show of yours in Melbourne. Can you just tell everyone and me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's my first solo show, so super wild. Did not imagine myself to be doing that at this stage of my life, but here we are. So it was a cabaret entitled Both Things, and it explores the duality of being like a really happy and positive person, and then also struggles with mental health, mental illness, that kind of thing. So it was something I'm really passionate about and something that I'm really happy I got to explore within this 25-minute piece. It was for the Cabaret showcases, which are directed by the wonderful Melissa Langton and Mark Jones. And I performed it at Chapel of Chapel in Melbourne, which is this stunning, like old church revamped into this stunning art space. And it was really special, yeah.
Why was it a surprise that you were doing a solo show?
I think what hit me the most about it was I was standing on stage as myself, not as a character, not as anything like kind of put on, which was like I decided to do that because the idea of it terrified me, and I was like, I'm time to do things that terrify me more.
Just being yourself on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was a really fun adventure. I
get so annoyed when people think that because you act, that must mean that you're confident in other avenues of life. Like I'm a very shy, introverted person, but when I'm on stage, because I can be someone else, it just doesn't really matter anymore. I think it was I forget who said it, but acting is the shy person's revenge. And that's me.
Never heard that, but I love it.
It's my revenge against the world for some reason.
For being like, hey, you're a public speaker, right? Off you go.
Yeah. They're not connected. Shy people can be the best actors because they're not being themselves. Some of the most confident moments that I have ever had in my life have been when I was either playing a character or literally wearing a mask.
Mask work is on another level.
Mask work, okay.
No, but I just mean like wearing a mask or like something that. Oh no, I absolutely love doing that kind of work because it takes you so far away from yourself as a performer, and that's really thrilling to me and something that I'm exploring a lot lately, actually. So
I didn't know mask work was a specific kind. I thought that was just like pretentious stuff that high school kids did. Like they like painted white masks and they were like, oh, I'm a tree. Like what is mask work other than just wearing a mask?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had the most experience with it. but it's based on like traditional Balinese. I'm gonna get the history of this all wrong, so don't quote me on it. But it has stunning traditions, and to back in 2020, like early months of 2020 before the world finished.
Last month in 2020.
Yeah, last month. I went to a physical theatre lecture series, and it was all about the mask and like this is going to sound really pretentious, but like the poetic body.
Poetic body?
Well, I told you it was going to sound pretentious. But no, it was really nice.
Okay, I'm sure it was.
You're laughing, but you know what? It was great for my artistic soul. So
poetic body. That really caught me off guard. Poetic body. Okay, I'm sure it makes sense when you're wearing a mask. So, your show, Both Things Can Be True. I wanted to talk a bit about that because it delves into your personal experiences with performing and the mental health issues that come along with that, because I have noticed a trend with pretty much most artistic people that I've ever encountered. People who pursue art and performance seem to have their own sort of mental issues, for lack of a better word, going on. What do you think are the connections between people that decide, or it's in their bones, that they want to do something artistic and having mental troubles along the way?
I think that it's a great question and a great topic of discussion, and honestly there's so much research that's gone into it just even over the past few years, and something that I'm really passionate about in like my own artistic world. I think that you can get caught up. There's very much the suffering artist and the all of the archetypes and stereotypes that come along with that, and I think that can be a dangerous ideology in a sense, but there is also an element of truth in it.
Dangerous to stereotype artists as being like struggling and starving and down on their luck.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there are many problems that can come along with that. I think we need to end the starving artist thing, just in general.
Yeah, definitely. So, your cabaret show. I should have asked this earlier. What is a cabaret show? I'm not very familiar with them.
Yeah. So the thing about cabaret is it can be absolutely anything. Like when people think of cabaret, they mainly associate like sitting at like tables and watching a show and having a dinner or a drink. And like it's definitely sprung from that. Like it springs from vaudeville, and it has a great history, and it's definitely expanded along the years. And essentially cabaret is anything that you want it to be. I kind of played it safe. My cabaret was full of personal anecdotes, essentially my stories that I wanted to tell set to music. But another actor who did the cabaret showcase alongside, there were 21 of us, I think, that took part in it. He decided to do Tony Abbott Does a Cabaret. So that was amazing.
I had forgotten that Tony Abbott even existed. I thought he was old news. Okay. All right, sure. I'm sure he was great.
Oh, it was very funny. So yeah, I think pick something and roll with it, and that's cabaret.
If you want to use your poetic body in whatever way, then cabaret. So you're also interesting poet body. Yeah. Are you still studying?
Yes, yeah, I'm in my third year of uni now.
All right, so how's studying performing arts going? What's it like to learn how to perform alongside other people in school?
I love it. That's like a whole loaded question. I'm gonna
Is
take
it good? Yes or no?
piece, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's great. In the past couple of years, it's been very challenging. A practical course, partially online. So yeah, it's got its own set of challenges, but it's also made me somewhat closer to the cohort as well, which is a strange and lovely thing that's happened. I feel like because we're all in the depths of how are we going to put together our ensemble track online.
Stuff like that happens. You see YouTubers online get people from all over the world to harmonize with each other.
Yeah, I think being online and kind of getting thrown into the deep end for that. I mean, in my second year we have a unit called performance studies, and usually we, at the end of our trimesters, we get up and we like perform a showcase. At the end of next trimester, we'll be doing musical, etc. But for my second year, we ended up doing a musical film.
Because you couldn't do live things.
Yeah. Okay. So we couldn't be.
We've changed the schedule. We've changed the marking criteria for no reason.
They're like, well, surprise, we're doing a film degree.
A film degree, yeah.
No, but in saying that, like it does have its challenges, but it's also been really great to learn about like the more technical side of that. Like I spent painless hours editing together our 30-minute film.
Painless hours, as in it wasn't painful? Painless hours?
Probably should say painful hours.
Yeah, painless.
I think I tried to say painful and endless at the same time.
Painless.
Yes.
The burden of a painless session. So what are your thoughts on the future of live entertainment, given the fact that your course turned into a film course apparently. So I mean, will we even have theaters at all in 10 years? I mean, haven't like thousands, hundreds of shows and theaters closed down because COVID just happened? Mm-hmm. Like what's going to happen?
That's in an already like unsure career life journey. Mm-hmm. And then adding all of that, it's definitely been a hard time for artists to kind of grapple with that. They're in a rapidly changing industry. A lot of shows have been live streamed without audiences. So the performers are still able to do what they love and, what they trained for, and what they spent countless working towards. So they're able to like be in a theatre space. But obviously you miss the connection with a live audience if you're live streaming, but it's also a way for artists to work currently. I think it's like a cross between a theatre show and a drive-in movie have popped up all over England, which I think is amazing. So I think despite the industry changing dramatically, artists have always been really resilient, and they're going to go with the changes and update as best they can and keep the magic within their art and their storytelling, but just in a different kind of platform.
Yeah, nothing beats live performance. And I think for live performance to continue, I think non-artistic people that go and see live performances, and they need to realize and remember for a long time that nothing beats it. Like a recorded version of a live performance is trounced by the live performance. Every kind of medium that I can think of is better when you're in the room watching the people.
Yeah, there's definitely a really nice camaraderie, a connection between an audience and a performer that is obviously lost between a screen nowadays. Although, I mean, film actors have been doing it for decades and they've still you know, put across absolutely beautiful performances that make you sit there and stare at your screen and cry and laugh. And I mean, if they can do it, why not us?
Why not the live people, the stage people? So are you thinking about your own personal performance future? Are you trying to create a little bit of a stockpile in film, YouTube-y kind of performance, or is it all stage all the way?
To be honest, I think moving over to Melbourne, and studying a course, I've been introduced to all of the ins and outs of like the business side of performance that I hadn't necessarily been aware of before. And I think that in Australia specifically, it's really difficult to work over multiple platforms. Like if you are known as a live theatre performer, it's doubtful that you will be booking TV and film gigs. Although in saying that, I mean, there is always the avenue for like TVCs and commercials and all of that thing. And live performers are always getting like, sorry, not TV, TVCs and commercials. And in saying that, that's not a stock standard rule. It's just I think it's something that's slowly changing as well. It's very strange to be in an industry and doing a career that not only changes given COVID and everything that's happening currently in the world, but I mean, it's changing rapidly just within itself. Like theatre people are working more in film, there's more crossover, and also there's better terms of people are really standing up for and won't necessarily take what's been happening in the past, just in terms of like all white casts and things like that. Like I think that's a really important change that's happened as well, and the fact that we're seeing more diversity on our stages. So yeah, in terms of how I see my own career going, I think you can't really predict it. And honestly, if I continue on the path that I am leading now, I mean, I've been very lucky. I've worked in independent theatre, I've worked in children's theatre, and in children's entertainment and events. Gosh, those are the main ones. Oh, I've also delved into like puppetry work. So, I mean, I think while in the training stages and the like beginnings of my career, I'm trying to explore everything, and wherever I end up, you know?
Wherever you end up, I understand.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your experience with children's entertainment, because that's something that I do. In fact, I just finished a kids' party like 3 hours ago. So how recently did you start getting involved in that, and what and why and who and where and why and what? And how?
I guess it stems back to 2018. It was like my first year that I took a break from studying. Like after high school, I went straight into a diploma, and then I did like a cert, and then it was 2018, and I'd graduated 3 years ago, and it was the first year that I kind of like had a break, and I was like, I should get a real job. I decided to become a children's entertainer. So 2018, I worked for the company back in Perth, or Blue, and I just found such a fulfillment that I hadn't necessarily felt, a different kind of fulfillment than you feel from performing or being on stage. And I think it was mainly the one-on-one interactions with kids that was so special to me. Kids say the darndest things. Yeah, they just come up with these beautiful anecdotes, and they're so like unapologetically kind. Well, they can be. They're just so unapologetically themselves, and I think we can learn a lot from kids. So yeah, I worked with the company for a while, and then I to Melbourne, and I continued working with the same company. I was very lucky; they did a state transfer for me, and then yeah, so I worked in, like, I was running crafts, and I was also doing suit work and chaperoning. Suit work is like being in mascots. I got to be the Easter Bunny in my first year of living in Melbourne. So that was very fun, Easter bunnying at Marvel Stadium. Just a huge crowd.
Oh yeah, the classic Marvel superhero, the Easter Bunny.
Yes, the Easter Bunny. No, but doing suit work also gave me an appreciation for puppetry, and I think that's where it kind of, my interest in puppetry kind of stemmed from, doing suit work and being in mascots. Also stemming back to like mask work, being covered, not being like,
I was about to say,
yeah. So I worked in kind of general like children's events, children's entertainment, that kind of thing. Never done a party though. I've
Okay.
never done a children's party. Yeah, I've never done it. I think that's so strange that in my entire career as children's entertainer, I've never done a party.
Yeah,
like,
that's all I do.
Oh, I love that. No, I journey around to shopping centres and stadiums and the AO, the Australian Open.
Yeah, I've done a couple of shopping centres where you set up tables and you like make like little popsicle houses, or like you make slime, and it's shown to me that the worst thing about a kids event are the adults, especially when well, what do you disagree?
No, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I mean, even today, there was a moment where you can just tell what the parent is going to be like when you see a spoiled child, that's mine, and they keep like one of the worst experiences that I've ever had at a kids' party wasn't a bunch of kids being annoying or anything, although that happens sometimes. It's when, what was it? Kids were lining up because I was doing some balloons for them. And so the line was formed, and the birthday girl barged in and sat on essentially pushed another girl off the front chair to sit in the chair at the front. Yeah, and I was like, "Whoa, Missy, back of the line." And then I assume her mother walks up, like puts her hand on her shoulder and goes, "But she's the birthday girl." And I was like, "Oh, you are ruining your child with that kind of." That kind of spoilage. It's the worst thing that you want to see. Like a weak parent just annoys me so much. Even when you get annoying kids that are, being annoying, like throwing stuff, the parent, like, I don't know what is with modern day parents. They're just so quiet and weak. None of the parents yell at their kids anymore. We need that to change, because we can't do it. We can't say, "Billy, get back over there." We have to be like, "Oh, let's go." We need to bring back harsher parenting.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with you. You're entitled to your wrong opinion.
Well, the kids are going to grow up to be monsters if they get away with, shoving kids around and getting their way all the time.
I think that's, where we come in though. I mean, all we can do, absolutely, we can't change what's happening in the kids' home or with the parents, but we can absolutely model we would want to be treated by a human in the world, and we, can do our best to pass along in the short couple of minutes that we've got with them.
Yeah, that's what fuels me, because I I mean, of course, I don't remember what I don't remember, but I do remember specific times when I was in primary school, when I was just young, when entertainers would come to the school and entertain us. And the fact that I now remember that gives me a lot of enthusiasm to be like those kinds of people to the kids that I see today. Like they may remember specific things that I'm doing in 20 years. And that just makes me feel really special. It makes the moment feel really special for me.
It absolutely should. I love that. Yeah, I think, and obviously there's not much we can do in, I suppose it's with parties, I guess they last like an hour-ish.
Yeah, an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah, an hour. I think the longest I've interacted with a couple of kiddos was probably like 20 minutes, 30 at the longest. So there's not much we can do in the short amount of time that we see them, but I guess what we can do is pass along, not necessarily lessons, or things that, just nice things. I think in there's a particular moment that I remember, this young, I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl now. This young kid was coloring in, and the parent was kind of like hovering over, and the parent said something along the lines of, "Oh, don't use that. That's an ugly color. We don't like that color." And I was like, let the kid have some creative freedom.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. Oh, and I just, that kind of thing absolutely crushes me. I'm like, the kids picked the color. They like the color. Let them use the color.
And you didn't say anything? You just had to stand back and be sad?
Yeah, I did. Oh, gosh.
So what would you recommend people who want to get into performing in kids entertainment? What skills should they have? Where should they go, and what should they be to become one?
Oh gosh, kids entertainment, honestly, a lot of passion, a lot of luck. It would be remiss of me to say that I lucky in my career. Like, I was lucky enough to transfer companies over states, and so I had that on my resume ready to go for like applying for other companies to work with. So yeah, I guess looking back to when I first applied, kids entertainment generally, I mean, an appreciation for children is definitely an integral part of it. I think kids are so young and they're so malleable, and they copy. My gosh, they copy, and they pick up everything that's given to them. And you won't be able to tell what they do with what they pick up, but I mean, the best you can do is try and, again, model good things to them.
Yeah, because they copy your, they don't follow your advice, they just follow your example. You have to behave like
Absolutely.
a nice person. You can't just get on one knee like a Jedi and say, oh, listen, be sure to trust your elders and be wise for the future, because that'll just fly right through their head. You have to behave like a good person around them, and then they just pick up on those on that.
Yeah, and honestly, kids are smart. Like, kids have a lot of integrity. Yeah, they are. They're absolutely sponges. And they also, like, I think, give kids autonomy. Like, kids, again, they can pick their own colors and they can wear what they'd like. And I think the biggest mistake we make as adults is trying to get a child to do what you because it may not be right for that child. I don't know if someone told me this or I read it somewhere, but I heard somewhere um, that if kids are like having a rough day, or they're like exploding, or like being angry, or kind of like acting out, that means like you just need to refocus their energy somewhere that isn't going to hurt themselves or their others. And I think kids often, they don't have the vocabulary to explain to adults what they're feeling, what they're going on, what is going on. And so they act out. And I think the biggest mistake we can make as adults is to treat that as like, oh, it's a difficult child. It's like, no, they're just experiencing some big emotions that they don't have the vocabulary to explain, and they don't really know where to put. So yeah, just having a lot of patience, I think, is another kind of quality for working with kiddos.
Infantilizing children is bad, because I've talked to many 6-year-olds, and they're essentially like, you can talk to them in the same way that you would talk to an adult, or at least I do, and they respond in pretty much exactly the same way. I don't like it when I see adults talk to people who are at least 5, and it's like, oh, Billy, let's go over here, and they have that sort of sing-songy baby kind of voice. I think that kind of voice sticks around for a bit too long. When you treat children maturely, I think they grow up to be mature, in my experience.
Yeah. I think it, again, just comes back to treat your kiddo how to treat other people, I guess.
Yeah, but what do you do when you come up against an annoying kid, a troubled kid, and you just want to get through the session? How do you handle them? What's your advice?
I'm very lucky. I usually have a great team that I'm working with, and we all kind of jump in to help out.
You just sort of hot potato the kid to the next person. and then by the time they've made the rounds, it's time to go.
I mean, that is one option, but also different people have different ways of communicating, and maybe your way of communicating doesn't work for the kid. So I mean, my team members' way of communicating and getting things across might resonate more. I think that there is more acceptance around certain things that we talk about now, and it's a whole thing. Like there's more acceptance around it, and also generational differences in how we cope with things, how we explain them. Yeah, I mean, I myself have never been diagnosed with like anxiety or anything, and so I try very hard to avoid sentences like my anxiety. I mean, it's hard, certainly. I think in kind of the people that I am lucky enough to know, they're all pretty like on it with things like that, trying not to trivialize like diagnoses or things that people just have to deal with. And in saying that, there is also like, there's the wider acceptance of talking about it in general. But I mean, there's also like Gen Z is going around making like mental illness jokes, which is a totally valid part of culture that like has just kind of happened.
I'm trying to think of a mental illness joke. I can't think of it.
Just go on TikTok, honestly.
Okay.
Oh,
all right. God. Maybe I'm thinking of like an actual sort of knock joke, not just sort of like comically mocking someone. I'm reading a book right now called Don't Think About Monkeys, and it's a bunch of essays about people who have Tourette syndrome. And one of the writers, the book was released in like the 90s, and this writer grew up in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and he was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome when he was 35. But now it's like,
late in life.
Yeah, it's like now if you're like 8 or 9, people have sort of got more of a handle of it. People like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sort of coming to terms with this now, where I just thought for the past 100 years, if a kid was 4, you could just sort of like send him to the doctors and the doctor would just figure out everything that's going on. But, you know, we find out new things all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think in using that example, the 4-year-old who could be diagnosed with Tourette's versus the 35-year-old.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, modern medicine has come so far, and even just like, it's no longer like a taboo to talk about things like that. And so because it's not such, like there's not such a taboo about talking about it, people are able, there is more space for people to do more research into things, which I think is such an amazing step forward for everything. But yeah, I mean, there are people who, I mean, just for example, didn't grow up in my generation, where like if you felt like you needed to take medication to help you, that wasn't a big deal. And there are people that like I know now, like a director I recently just worked with was diagnosed late in life with autism. But I think that because they are getting the help now, I mean, I think that's great. Yeah, I think it's a shame that it did take so long for it to be able to be accepted, but also like things do manifest later in life with certain disabilities and mental illnesses and things like that. So I really think it's a case-by-case basis, but just in general, I think it's great that the research is now more available, and we can talk about it, and it's there for people to access at whatever stage of life they may need it.
So bringing this back to the show that you did you do this show because you yourself wanted to deal with your own personal troubles, or was it about saying this stuff to the world in the hopes that someone might be listening and get helped by what you're saying, or both, or neither?
I love this question because I think at the very beginning, when I was coming to terms with my own mental health, I mean, art was a huge way of being able to cope with it. But I also think that now I'm at the point where I can talk about my diagnosis within an arts space and within a show, and it not affect my mental health, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like
a question that I was going to come up with is, do you think that your pursuit of artistic stuff has made these issues worse? And if the answer is yes, then why keep performing? Wouldn't it just snowball into something worse and worse?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think artists can fall into the trap of either side of that. Either art is the thing that helps them stay alive, or it's the reason they don't want to be anymore. And I think, I mean, I myself have definitely fallen on either side of that scale. So yeah, I mean, I've been reading this book. Oh gosh, I can't remember what it's called. I think, oh yes, Living with a Creative Mind, and it kind of talks about the ups and downs of the creative journey. I definitely recommend for any read to give that one a read. It was a really validating read, just in the sense that I wasn't alone in these kind of feelings. Sometimes, I mean, the arts are a very demanding industry, and there's a lot of pressure and a lot that goes into even working on breaking out and into the industry before you're even seen in like the public eye. And I think that especially for someone like me who does have a mental illness, being in that kind of environment, that stress is just inherently a part of it. I feel like if I didn't have like strong coping mechanisms like that, I could absolutely like the work that I do could absolutely stress me out too much, and that kind of thing. But the great thing about lockdown and is just, I think it's given me the opportunity and the space and the time to really nail down what my like happy things are, or what to really work on like coping mechanisms and things like that. And now I journal pretty much every day.
Me too.
Sure...
I've started doing that over the past year. It's so great because it's like you're talking to someone, but not really. I mean, that's sort of all you you need. I mean, like, so sometimes you don't need a solution. You just need to sort of put it out into words rather than it being a vague, dark cloud in your head.
Yes.
When you write it down, you realize, oh, there it is. Because when it's not unknown, like 90% of the hurt just sort of wafts away. Because we need answers. We don't always need solutions. Sometimes we just need the answer.
Yeah, or even just to voice out our troubles. And perks of doing that on the page and not at people is it doesn't hurt any of your relationships. So yeah. No, it's good because I think in the past, I mean, I've definitely, before I've had an outlet to, I mean, talk about the things that are going on in my brain and things that I'm stressed about, I would turn to friends, which I think is a great thing to do if you have a strong support system, but it can also be very taxing for your friends. And while I think that it's great to be able to talk to your friends, they're also like, they're not trained therapists, and they also have feelings too, you know, and they're going through their own troubles and turmoils. So yeah, I definitely recommend journaling, and I have a little tab in my journal. Actually, I'll see if I can, I've got my journal here.
Read all of it out loud right now, live.
I'm not going to do that. But I have a little tab. I've got tabs in my journal, and one of those tabs means discuss in therapy. Because like you said, sometimes you just need to get it out on the page and the answer is there for you. You've written. But sometimes things need a little more work. And so that's what my little tab is for.
I think passion when it comes to being artistic is really what causes troubles with people who are artistic, because at least if you're in some crappy office job and you hate it, at least you're in that job and it's kind of steady, and worst case scenario, you've got a job and you don't like it. But if you pursue something artistic and you lose the love for being artistic, you have nothing. I mean, if you're an actor, or I think it was Sam Neill when he was talking about art and depression and all that stuff, he said, if you're an actor or a singer or a dancer and you're not acting, singing or dancing, what are you?
Yeah. That reminds me of a documentary, actually. I think Must Go On, and it's Ben Steele is the creative mind behind the documentary.
Awesome name.
And yeah, right, cool
Ben
name.
Steele. He should have been a wrestler or a stuntman. I don't know.
Yeah, and he made and interviewed, or he made the documentary and interviewed a whole bunch of people throughout the entire like creative artistic sphere, and I think there was like a professional dancer, a film actor, like the head of a ballet company. I'm forgetting like 18,000 people here, but yeah, just lots of people in the artistic sphere to kind of weigh in on that that topic, just like the creative industries and mental health. And I definitely recommend checking out that documentary. I was lucky enough to go to like a webinar kind of thing with Ben Steele, and he brought in via Zoom a couple of the actors. Sorry?
He brought in what? La Zoom? What is that?
Via Zoom.
Oh, okay. I thought you said La Zoom, like some sort of Cirque du Soleil performer. This is La Zoom. La Zoom.
It's the French Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he brought in a whole bunch of people that he'd interviewed, and we talked through the main themes in the documentary, and we were given access to a whole pile of like resources to do with mental health. Yeah, that was a very, very worthwhile experience, and yeah, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, and I think you should absolutely go and watch the documentary.
All right, cool. I'll do that. Let's get positive now. Let's stop talking about dark clouds in the head. Are there any? Well, actually, what are some of the best shows that you've ever seen, and how did they affect you? I'm sorry for putting you on the spot like this. They don't have to be recent. This could be, you know, a clown that you saw when you were 3, like, and or are there any shows that are famous that we would know of that you liked and would recommend?
Oh my gosh. Perks of well, not the last couple of years, but certainly the first year of living in Melbourne is there is a different show and an indie film festival, and so many things to like get your hands into and explore. I saw more live theatre in 2019, in my first year of living in Melbourne, than I had in my entire 20 years of living in Perth, and it was just amazing. Oh, I saw so much great theatre, and I saw some not great theatre, and I saw some mediocre theatre. I just saw a lot of theatre, and it was so great. And I really miss that. I miss being able to go out and see shows and things. But a show, oh my gosh, I'm looking around because I've got like tickets like up on my walls. I saw a musical, Kiss the Spider Woman. It's a it's a Kander and Ebb musical. It's, oh gosh, how do I explain it? I think what was amazing about it was just like the rawness and the authenticity in the performances. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastical musical in the sense that, I mean, there's a flying Spider Woman. Not like,
was it Spider-Man the musical?
Yeah, this is Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, off Broadway.
you just viewed it in more sort of avant-garde kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, like, essentially, without spoiling the music, yeah, in the Spider Woman herself is an idea, an idealism of the main character, whose name is Melina, and I think what I really like about it is the duality of Melina's life and living in like a really, really hard situation. The majority of the musical is done in jail. I can't remember where the musical is set, but Melina is in jail, and it's essentially because of his sexuality. Like, that's not the official reason, but it's the reason. And he meets.
So he's in jail because he's gay. So
essentially,
like,
yeah.
Okay, early 1900s
Yeah.
or 1800s, 1700s, and any
Oh,
time before
gosh.
like 1940 or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Ancient Greece, not Greece. Ancient somewhere. Maybe not Greece, but somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it. Oh gosh, like 50s, 60s. I honestly cannot remember anything about the setting, which is terrible, because it's the majority of the musical. But yeah, I mean, so essentially to deal with the reality of Melina's situation, he conjures up this spider woman, who's this like film, who represents like film. I think it must be like 30s or 40s, because film is a major aspect of, like, a major theme in the musical. And I'm going to cinemas and escaping essentially through these films, and that interplays with the hard reality of his situation and the fantastical, like, imagined elements of that. And stunning musical. Yeah, I literally never heard of the musical before, and everyone I knew at the time was recommending that I go see it, and so I went to see it, and I do not regret it. It still is one of my favorite recent theatrical experiences. Yeah, stunning musical.
Yeah, I go out of my way to find new local theatre, or just a show that I've never heard of before, because we all know of the things we already know about. And I'd say at least half of the time when I go see new theatre, it's not great, but I never regret going, because it's like scratching a lotto ticket. You even if you don't win, you just sort of enjoy the risk. You enjoy the roll of the dice.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
I mean, nothing beats live theatre, as you said. So even when we see a bad show, we still appreciate the fact that they're out there and they're doing stuff and they memorized all this stuff, or either that, or you spend like $30 for an hour-long theatre show, so you pretend to like it to make it feel like you haven't wasted $30. That's why people stand up and applaud after like a big musical. It isn't because it was good, it's because the tickets cost like $140. Like, this was good, I swear. It really, it's for them. They're clapping away the pain from their wallet.
My favorite thing is going to theater shows on my own and buying like really cheap tickets and sitting in like obstructed view seats.
Oh yeah,
and like enjoying a solo theater adventure. I very much miss doing that.
Yeah,
I
always try and pick seats that are off center, because when you see a movie, it's all right there and it's all framed perfectly. But when you go to a theater, you can be at angles that maybe the actors didn't intend for, and it might create a worse experience, but it's unique to you.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I think they were like $35, like under 35 tickets, under 35, like 35 years of age, essentially student tickets, or non-mature age student tickets. I went and saw.
So someone who's only over 45 is mature?
No, I guess in like ticket making.
Ticket land. Okay.
Ticket land. Gosh. No, essentially it was just like an initiative for young people to go see live theatre, which I think is great.
Yeah, people who are under 35 are young, okay? I'm just telling myself that, okay? We're not old yet.
Young people.
Yep. And then in 2 years it'll be under 45. And then
that would be cool.
Yeah, and because of medical science, we'll be 60 and only about a quarter of the way through our life.
honestly, that would be very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah,
go on.
I'm all for like an accessible arts initiative, no matter what that might be. I bought these cheap tickets and I was sitting in row B, and like I was like looking up at the stage. And I watched a 2-person production of The Importance of Being Earnest. So these 2 men played every single role, and it was so funny and so good. And I remember at one point, because I was sitting so dang close to the stage, one of the actors like rang out like a wet cloth or something, and it was actually wet because I got water on me. Immersive theatre. No, so some very fun things have happened from me sitting in cheap seats.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about theatre, because they can do so many things with very little props. You see this a lot in a lot of kids theatre, where they just use a bunch of blocks and like they make a tower, and then they make you saw this in the, I mean, this is a very small moment, but in the SpongeBob SquarePants musical, during the BFF song, they have that stretchy accordion looking thing, and it's like a wall around them and like a steering wheel and everything else, and you buy it when 2 actors play different roles. You buy it. I mean, something like the the Laramie project, where there's like 8 actors and like 20 roles, and you totally buy it. If that was a film, that would just be freaking weird, because it's because you suspend your disbelief more when you see theatre, and it allows for so much more creativity. When you see Phantom of the Opera and you see half the boat scraping across the ground, you believe that it's a boat in the water. That brings us to the last question of the One Story podcast, One Story Building podcast, whatever it's called, and that is that I am going to ask you. I just have to ask you, why are stories important?
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful question.
Thanks. I ask it every episode.
I love that. Stories are important. Gosh, for many reasons and for many different people. Something that I actually put in the biography of my cabaret is I see theatre as a take what you need piece of paper. Have you seen those? They're like pinned up to like, I don't know, lights, and they have like perforated little things that you can pull off, like take what you need, patience, humor, like have you seen those?
I know when someone wants to sell a couch and you pull like the bottom of an A4 paper.
Yeah, okay.
Call this number.
So a lot of people that idea, but instead of phone numbers, it's like attributes. So like patience, humor, love, and instead of like a buy this couch, here's the phone. It's like take what you need. And I've always loved that ever since I saw it for the first time. And I see theatre as very much a manifestation of that, in that you go to a show and an individual will take whatever they need from that show. And this, whether that be like a laugh, whether that be a catharsis, some shows you go to and they make you deeply experience emotion, and there's almost this release after you go finish it. Some shows leave you inspired to enact social change, to make changes within your own life. Stories are so important because of the impact that they have on people. And that impact can be so diverse in so many beautiful different ways. And that's what I love about theatre as well, is that you can only do so much as the person on stage, but what the audience takes from your performance is entirely up to them. And I think that's really beautiful.
Okay, great. Well, Mikaela, thanks for coming on the One Story Building podcast and sharing with us your poetic body. What was it? Poetic body? Is that it? Was that it? Poetic body?
Yes.
Yes, good. All right. I was hoping that you remembered and I wasn't just saying something weird and you were getting freaked out.
No. I remembered.
Okay, good.
Gosh. I swear there's meaning behind that. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me to talk.